Got a 204R Rebuild today, and putting an LS kit, which is a kit with clutches, putting a low sprag, pump vane and rotor kit, overdrive steels, bushing kit which I've already put in, a band filter, probably going to put a lockup valve in it, and something else I was putting in it, seal retainer. Seems like there was something else. Anyway, we'll get into it. In your rear ring gear, you have this bearing. It fits with that end facing up. In your sprag planet assembly, there's a sprag. That's where your low sprag goes. There's a washer style, there's a bearing style. I'm going to put, let's see, I'm going to put this in with these tabs facing over here. I'm going to put this facing this way. It's going to turn counterclockwise and lock clockwise. 4-tab washer. That's going to go on top like that. Normally this output shaft will just slide out. Somebody must have put a ding on it so that it would stay in there. Our center support next on all your pistons, except for the forward on this one because it's aluminum, but most of these are steel like this. You got these little rings that can pop off. You don't want to get these mixed up. Keep them with the drums that they go with. Few things on some of these bushings you need to be aware of. One of them is on this drum here, or the center support. Piston down in here and we'll show you. And you got this wavy ring like that, goes on top. Put the taper on the tip of your snap ring up. Put that in the center so that it goes down all the way. There we go. You don't have to have this, but it makes life a whole lot easier. It's the center support tool. You need to make sure that this bushing is down where it needs to be, but not so far down that this can't get in there and grab where it needs to. That's going to allow us to put this down in the case. drum. And like I said, this piston is aluminum. Not all of them are aluminum. So this one does not have the little ring on it. Spring cage. And again, we're going to put the snap ring in with the taper of the tips up. Got our wavy plate. Got our steel. And there's thick and thin of these steels, so you can play around with it if you need to get your clearance to come out right. Be a little tight, so apply this drum. Make sure everything's seated properly. And that's about right. Clearances, the ones with the feed bleed system are supposed to be like 28 to 59, I believe. Forward drum. And we put our sealing rings on. You put some grease in there to help keep these in the groove if you want to. And just give them a little tweak and shove them on there, and you're making sure that they're going together like that, not like that. And we got this washer, goes on top. Direct drum. Got a lip seal that goes down in here. Get this out. Some of these get kind of hard to get out sometimes once they start getting hard. We got this lip seal that goes on the inside with the lip facing up. Make sure it's not rolled. It's just wanting to roll on me. Kind of hard to get my big beefy hands in there sometimes. Okay, we're all the way in. You got a check ball in here, make sure it's free. Got that ring again. A couple of these are real close to each other, so make sure it's getting the right ones. And you got this cutout goes on that where that capsule is, and you got your spring cage. I'm going to put the taper over tips up again. Alright, I got pick steels that go on this drum normally, and there's cutouts, so keep all your cutouts in the same position. Good. And this bushing right here. The way I take it out is I gotta just get a bolt. This is a 7/16 by 14, and it just sucked it right out of there. Your drums all the way down. And we're going to take a pair of vice grips and we're going to put these on here. This will help let us put it down in the case. A little bit more. There we go. Sun shell, I doubt you're going to see one anymore, but you might. They used to not be a hardened shell. This one's hardened, and you can tell by the color of it. It would be well, I don't have nothing that's as shiny as it. Maybe look more like this drum instead of like that. This is a hardened one, like I said. You want to put a hardened shell in these things. Another thing I forgot to mention about your forward drum, the snap ring that goes on the forward drum and the snap ring that holds the shaft into the overrun drum, they're really close, so don't mix them up. There you go. I don't have it. More, maybe. I think another forward drum. pulled it up too far. Here we go. And you got this wavy ring. Like this, it goes on top. It's going to have to be centered. Get your overdrive sprag assembly with this hub. Fits down inside there. Taper the tip of your snap ring up. We're going to press this down, put this in the groove. And our overrun steels. Pressure plate. Gear. Planet. And again, we're going to turn counterclockwise and lock clockwise. And the front ring on this input shaft is solid. There's no need to change it unless it's really screwed up or doesn't fit snug in the back of the stator. But most times I don't find the need to change them. I'm going to put these sealing rings on again just like we did the others. You can put grease on there if you want to. Snap ring on. Here again, we want to taper the tips up. Out here for our lockup. Center support. Now on the center support, this bushing down here, right underneath where this bushing is, there's feed holes, so there again you got to make sure it's in the right spot but not too far down. It's blocking those feed holes. These are going to go with the lips facing down. It's not rolled again. Get the little hook of your scribe underneath there and just make sure we're right. And this one's got the, you can see how the lip faces in instead of outside. And that's going to go up in this groove. Quit screwing around here. Alright. come on there. There we go. Again, we'll make sure we're up in the groove and not rolled. And our sealing rings on the back. You could break these off of here if you wanted to, but if you're not in the business, and even if you are, a lot of people don't even have spare parts for these anymore. You don't want to break a sealing ring. In case you break one of the new ones, you got something to fall back on. So you got this thrust washer goes on the back. Sealing rings. You bend these out too far, they will break. And you want to go just enough to get it on there. And you're kind of just walking it into place. Start the side off and kind of roll it around. See if they gave it to us. Yes, they did. You want a rubber accumulator for your 3/4s. I wish they would make one for the 1/2. It's such a problem. I don't know why anybody never came up with something for it. Now on your servo, there's different numbers. 692 is a really good one. You really want one that's got rubber seals, lip seals on it, like this one. So on your outer one, the lip's going to face up towards you when you do it this way, and then you want the lip to face up on this side. And you get several different ones because there's several different servos. So you just pick the one that fits properly for the one that you got. And 569 is the best unless you want to get a super servo, which you can get from a lot of different manufacturers. So put your O-ring on the outside, put there. Inner part in. Now this one here, you can leave this out if you want to, not the whole piece, but the sealing ring. There's some shift kits that have you do that. This is not as imperative that it fits snug, like most of them never do. And you got this spring, and you got two sealing rings out here on your shaft. put grease on there if you want to hold into place, but I haven't never really found a need to do it. Just don't want them sticking way out. As long as they're sitting in like that, we're good to go. And we got this spring that goes on the inside here. It's your 1-2 accumulator, and it's your feed hole. You put your thumb over it. If you can drop this in there and it just falls in place like that, it's not sealing good. I've seen them just drop all the way through. You're supposed to come up with a way on your own to make these seal good. I try the original first, and if it will seal good, I just go with it. If it won't, then I start trying to get creative. And to tell you the truth, it's been so long, I don't remember what I used to use. Can't really even remember. I was going to go look before I had the tool to hold the Planetary system in the back of the case while you assemble it. I used to set the case on the floor and used as some kind of accumulator. I want to say it was a 400 1-2 accumulator to hold the output shaft in place. I may be wrong. Give this a little bit of tweak because it's not big enough to go over it. I don't want to stretch it out too far, because then it's a pain to get back into shape. And you don't want to roll it, because then it's really a pain to get back into shape. Alright, see how that did. It still ain't a lot better. Yeah, I don't like it. We're going to come up with something else. This is a 1-2 accumulator spring. But I'm going to do other stuff right now. We'll work on that later. Now here again, I don't think you're going to run into it, but you might. I did run into one several years ago on these vane rings for the pump. That you need hardened ones, and the way you tell if they're hardened or not, you bounce them on the table, and if they're not hardened, they'll snap right in half. This is the original 7 vane pump. We're going to put a 10 vane in it. It's wore out anyway. If you look in here, you can see how it's worn out pretty bad. So I left the pump bushing out so I could show you this. In the original, in the later ones, there's a ridge in here so that the pump bushing can't walk out the front. This doesn't have it. So I ground a couple spots right here where we're going to stake the bushing in. We're going to take the bushing. If you look at the end of the bushing right there, you can see where it's put together. So we're not going to put that here or here. We're going to put that over here somewhere. And if you look, the relief hole or passage where the fluid goes back and drains was not that big. I drilled that out a 1/4 inch, and these passages were not connected. So we want to open those passages up all the way around. And I just took that same drill bit and I drilled a little spot, and whatever wasn't opened, I just took a grinder and ground it open. So I drilled that a 1/4, these a 1/4, and this hole here a 1/4. Let's see what else. I'm going to go press this bushing in and the seal in, and I'll be back. I'm going to put some glue on this seal, even though we're doing a seal retainer. Alright, now we're just going to make sure that these feet aren't going to interfere with anything, and we're just going to knock this on. These things were just as bad as the 700s. I'm blowing front seals out. That's our 10 vein. A lot more stable line pressure with this than that 7. That O-ring and that metal ring fell out. Let me get a little grease on there. Usually I can get them in without falling out. Must be a pain. There we go. Alright. In your kit. And in your rebuild kit, you'll get these too. You can get this rubber and this Teflon, and it goes right there. I don't put these in because I found that they're a little too tall. I keep the old ones. Keep the old ones and I put them back in. And that goes in there, and then you get this little spring. Goes over here. Just kind of push in on that. There's your pivot pin. It goes in with the tip down. Make sure it's not wore out. And then there's a single spring or a dual spring. If you don't have a dual, you can put the inner one in, and it's advised to do it. Call it a dual prime setup. I make a tool to put this in, but I just pry it in with a screwdriver. I find no need to buy it. And you always want to make sure they did give you hardened rings. They should have, but you never know. Trust but verify. And you got these little tabs that only fit in a certain way, so just make sure that they fit in. And then put your vanes in. on top. And you set this off to the side. The lockup valve here, make sure that it's nice and free. Make sure your springs aren't broke. And we're going to talk about the PR system. Alright. On all of them, some kits will tell you to grind this land all the way off. I just grind a couple flats on it. There's a valve that has this hole in it, and there's a valve that doesn't have this hole in it. If it doesn't have this hole, you want to grind a little flat spot, just one, just a little bit on the back here all the way across. You still want to do that. So we got that. On your reverse boost valve, they make different sizes of this land right here, so this has to be a match set. This is 266. This is pretty good. I would try to get this or no smaller if you can help it. And then on your main boost valve, you got 429. It's pretty good for this one. I would not go smaller than that, especially if you got your Grand Nationals or your Monte Carlo SS's. You want to probably put a 500 valve in there. We're going to put a little grease to hold this in place. Valve goes in first with this end up. Spring goes in. Boost valve goes in. And our other boost valve on top. And move this out here where I can get to it a little better. And we're going to put our snap ring with the taper of our tips up. And make sure our snap ring's in all the way. This up and this up. They all only line up one way, so not like you can screw it up. I got that off somehow. Here we go. I got 5 of these 13s. You don't have to have the line-up tool, but it makes life a whole lot easier. I don't have a specific one for this. I just use my 4L61 and it works just fine. I just use my hand to hold it together instead of the thumb screw. And line up all the holes. Alright, there's different thrust washers for the back. This hole is going to line up with that bleed hole right there. Our O-ring on. Alright, I'm going to move the camera. Probably change the battery so we don't run out in the middle of this. So I'll be back. Alright, we're back. Alright, a couple things here. There's a tool for helping hold this Planetary system in the back. Now, putting the this works great for the 200s. As you bolt this up here and this stays up here. I don't know if there's just something didn't come in my kit when I got it. I swear I bought this back from ATEC Trans Tool back in the day. I can't find it. Their website is so damn hard to navigate. There's no part number on it. There's no name on it. But I swear that's who I bought it from. And anyway, you got this piece here that holds your output shaft up. Here's your adjustment here for pushing it up and down. So I just took a piece of 3/8 tubing. This fits fine on the tip of that down there. And I kind of beat a taper onto it so it fits up in the back of this tool. And it seems to work just fine for me. Normally, I would change the bushing and the seal before I put this together, but I want to show you the other tool in case you didn't ever do that back in the day. They had a tool for replacing that bushing in the vehicle. Otherwise you had to pull the tranny out and you had to tear it all the way down just to put a bushing in it. So hopefully you can see somewhat down inside there. Alright, put our Planet assembly in on top of that tool. We're going to make sure that we're not down too far, that the clutch is going to go underneath it. And we can't be up too far, otherwise we can't get the center support in. So alright. You got this cut out. It's going to have to go at the 6 o'clock position. Six clutches that go in here. The wavy ring goes on top. This thin snap ring goes in. Forgot to mention, there's a seal that seals against this center support. Before you put this in there, you better make sure the old one's out. You just drive it through. Put your center support in. kind of wiggle it around until it goes in. Try not to knock that ring off the front. Alright. Come on now. It may be up too high. That might work. And there's a bevel on this snap ring. We want the bevel facing up, opening about the 7 o'clock position. It's a little high for me. Alright, there we go. Now we're in. We'll pull our tool out. I'm going to screw this up where we can get the snap ring on the output shaft. Alright, put our sun shell in, make sure washer's on. Put our sun gear on with that facing down. Our bearing with the open face down. Front planet. Not open enough. We may have dropped the clutch. Oh, I think it went in. Okay. Our bearing, that facing down. Our ring gear. Brass washer. Steel washer with the tabs. Got to fit around the splines of the output shaft. And our snap ring with the taper of the tips up. Let me get this where I can get to it. A little tall for me. Alright. We're in, and now we can take this off so it's out of our way. Alright. See if you can see down in there, hopefully. Yeah. We got this washer that goes on top. These are selective. There's a tool for finding out which one you need. I've never had it, never used it. This is where your band anchor is going to go, so it's going to go at the 6 o'clock position. This needs to face over to the servo. And then leave that loose. Take our forward direct drum assembly. Solid metal, we are down. Put your band anchor in on your band. Alright, we're going to put our servo in now. So we can make sure our travel is correct. You're going to have to hold the band over. And you can actually use a scribe to hold it in place if you want to. Put it in this valve body bolt hole down here, and it holds it over. And let's see if I can get in here to do this. Alright, we're good. That looks really good on our band. Alright, so now we're going to put our center support in. You don't want to cock this or start banging it in there. If you get it stuck, you're screwed. The feed holes down at the 6 o'clock. Just very lightly tap. I mean very lightly. It'll start falling all on its own. Alright. Make sure our feed holes are lined up. I'm going to start our 2 center support bolts. Which are these 2. Got holes in the center of them. Then we got another tapered snap ring. I'm going to put that opening at the 12 o'clock. tap that in. I don't know if I said, but taper up. We're going to lube up our lip seals. And our apply plate. Opening is going to go over here. The tab's going to go over by your linkage. Got a lip seal that's not quite right. Should just slide in there. There we go. And we got our return spring. Taper of the tips of our snap ring is going to go up. Just kind of press down on your return spring, get it started in the groove, and to just work it around. Come on. Since we're on camera, you don't want to be a pain. All right. We got this thrust washer. The tabs go down. You only get it in one way, but to go here and here. We got this bearing goes on top of the ring gear. This assembly goes in next. We got our steels, one steel, one clutch, two steels. They only fit in one way, so you can't screw it up. Another clutch, our pressure plate, and our snap rings are going to go about to 12 o'clock. Alright, we got this, goes in here, fits in these 4 slots. I forgot to show you the only bushing I did not change in this was on the back of that support. And the reason I did not change it is this one has no oil grooves, and the one that was in there did. And I don't like putting bushings with no oil grooves in where one's had it. So it seemed to be good enough shape. I wasn't too worried about it. 10 millimeters on our center support. And you got this seal that goes in there, seals it. I do make an installer for it. I do have it. It helps keep you from smushing that rubber and cutting it. It puts it just at the right depth. There's one for the 204R, there's one for the 200 and 200 lockup, and then there's one for the 125. So you just put the cut plug on there and it fits right down on this tip. And just drive it in until it's flush. And the bottom's out. And I don't remember who made it. I think I bought it from A-Tech back in the day, but there's no name on it, so I don't know who it is. Yeah, we got that. We got our governor. We got different governors that have different tooth counts. And I come to find out that the green is for the Grand National and the Monte Carlo Super Sport. We'll cut this off there. Put our new one on. Just kind of roll it into place. Make sure it's not rolled over. And it fits nice and good inside your deal. Now, it's been so long, I was having trouble remembering. I don't recall it been having that much play up and down like that, but apparently they do. And apparently it's very hard to find a governor for these now. Did find one on eBay for $184, but I ain't paying $184 for a governor just to find out how it's assembled. Did see a few videos on YouTube, and it is assembled properly, and we're good to go for our Monte Carlo. The only thing that might be an issue is the speedometer might bounce around because the gear's got quite a bit of play in it. But there's nothing we can do about it because there's nothing that goes on there. Our gasket goes on. And we got these 413s going on here. Make sure your pin's not wore out in your accumulator. There we go. All right. We got 8 check balls. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We don't have to put that one in there if it does have the deal, so we can put the check ball in there. If you don't have the little spring and plunger on your mouse trap, leave that ball out, otherwise it's going to shift late, and it won't matter what you do, it'll always shift late. You'll never get it to not. So then we want our case gasket. It's got the C. The valve body plate. And there's different ones for different valves that you got on your pump. You got to be very careful not getting your plates and your valve bodies mixed up. You always want to match set. Anytime you order one from somewhere, tell them you want the plate too. Otherwise you're asking for trouble. Then we got this plate that goes down. We got this short tin. We got this gasket. And I gotta figure out what we're gonna do about the accumulator. So I'm just gonna use a bolt to line this up for right now. So I can tighten this down. We'll go ahead and put our valve body on. Alright, I'm going to bring the camera down and show you the throttle valve because it's pretty important. And we'll be back. Alright, hopefully stop bouncing here. This is the valve right here. This is blocked off with just a sleeve. Later ones I didn't even have. It'd just be solid cast across there. I was going to put a hydraulic lockup valve in here because I saw that they had the sleeve, and I figured that they drilled it all the way through, but they didn't. So I can't put the valve up in the back end here, so I can't do that. We're just going to have to trust that this vehicle has a good electrical system and the lockup's going to work. On your throttle valve, the most crucial valve in here, you gotta have to make sure that this thing is super free. Now this one is a later one, and it's got a spring that goes up in the back end right here. The ones that didn't have that, if they didn't have a spring on it, we'd get a spring like this, and I think you can still get these from Transtar and Witt. And we put it over the back of the valve here so that it would keep this free. They did have their problems. They could cock off to the side and not allow the valve to stroke at all, and then you had real low pressure all the time. So you had to be kind of careful, especially on carryouts when they'd be bouncing around and the cable wasn't adjusted properly, and it would cock off to the side. So you got this spring that goes in there. We're going to lube it up. And go ahead and put some tad bit of grease on there to keep that up in that valve. And drop it down in the hole there. And make sure it's back all the way. And put the pin in for it. Make sure it's in. Then I would get a magnet, and I'd make damn sure that valve is not dragging at all. Then you got the front part of the sleeve, you got the spring that goes in, you got this plunger. You're gonna have to line this up with this hole for your pin. And again, I'd lube the crap out of it. Don't go trying to force it in there, it should slide in easily. then make sure we're super nice and free. Alright, I'm going to move the camera back. Well, now before I do, there's 3 check balls that goes in here. 1, 2, 3. And then put some grease to hold those in place. Alright, now we're going to move the camera back. Alright, you got your linkage. You got a hole here in your linkage. It's got a loop into there. Faces back. And you got tall bolts, short bolts. You got your detent in this bracket. Bracket's going to loop around the pipe. You got your little wire. Loops around the back side there. This little wire is going to fit in this hole in the valve body. Like I said, these are bad about leaking anyway. Even with the new O-ring, I'm going to silicone it. It has a line-up tab. You can only put it in one way. It has a line-up tab. It faces up. So usually when you're taking that connector out, it breaks off, so you know that it faces up. Alright, that one's going to come out. That one's going to come out. You got these 2 short tins that go up here on the lockup solenoid. Now, I don't know if you saw, but up inside the pump where the filter goes, the old seal, that orange seal, is still up in there. I'll leave it in there. I put a double seal on them. And on our pressure sensor. And go ahead and change our lever seal. And this tool makes it a hell of a lot easier to get this seal out of here. I bought it off the Snap-on truck. A long time ago. That's the installer for it. And the seal goes in just like that. Once you get it started on there, you're going to have to get between the linkage rod and the seal and get it started up over those square off areas that the outside linkage goes onto to get it up over there so you don't cut the seal when you put it in. Amazingly enough, this has still got the bushings that come on the linkage. Normally they're gone, and you have to think up ways to that's all wrong. Thinking all wrong. You come up with ways to take up that slop in there because finding them bushings is getting hard. I don't know if you saw, but the old seal, this old seal is still in the pump. I leave it in there. I double seal these. Alright, put our speedometer in. You see our filler tube boot. Our throttle cable boot. Alright, we're going to have to come up with a different speedo seal. Hopefully I got one in stock. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do with my accumulator and we'll be back. Alright, I'm not going to take it back out because it fit nice and snug. But one of the sealing rings for the servo that they give in the kit, I just took one that was too big and I wrapped it around there and I cut it off. It was sitting in there like so, and I just scarf cut it to where it would fit, and it fit really snug. I think this is going to give a really good seal. So then you put the accumulator spring in. We've got the tall bolt goes over here and 3 shorts. The speedometer seal that they give in the kit is this one. Not all of them is that gonna work for. Should have been this style. Luckily, it's the last one I had.
Hey Tom, this is Gary. He just built his Ranger transmission. I think he wanted to thank you, bro.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Not many people do that for us. Thanks, Tom.
Well, then that goes up in there. Your bolt to hold it down is going to go in right there. Here's your bolt and your keeper. It's a 10. Let's see how I was going to show you the tool for taking the bushing out if you don't do it beforehand. Alright, let's get around here where you can see a little bit better. And I got this off the Snap-on truck. What you get is this, let's see what number it is. Looks like S8672D. So what you're going to do is you're going to make sure that that's back like that, and you're going to shove that in there. And you're going to have to unscrew this outside one until you feel it clip past the bushing. Alright, we're behind it now. So then you take that and you shove that forward. You bring that back. And that's a 7/8. And just take a ratchet and pulls it right out. And you got this tool. It's S867301. Let's put the bushing on it. Drive it in until it's flush. After that, I think the only thing left is to put the pan on. I don't think you need to watch me do that. I think you know how to put a pan on. If you don't, I guess you don't really need to be doing this. I guess we're done.